This is the exact opposite of what I do believe in. Because I think it's feasible to make hand in hand together a common agenda. But as long as you will have people in Europe and North America saying, these people in the South are my main problem, I don't want them, they are just migrants. Or people from the South saying, in the North, you have my main problem, this is cynicism, wealthy people and a post-colonial approach, we have no chance to deliver a global agenda. And I don't see 1 second, based on your narrative and your paradigm, how we can deliver a common agenda. There is no chance to do so. The unique chance to do so is to work together with respect, refusing the oversimplification of the different parts of the world, because guess what? In South America, you have wonderful leaders, wonderful society, and the same in the North. And you have politicians who want to build precisely a new growth model and cooperation between North and South. And being in charge during the past 8 years, I spent my life to do exactly what you mentioned. And my main example is about COVID time. Day one, probably remembers Ramaphosa, President Ramaphosa will remember and does remember. First month, I was invited by African Union to build a Common Action Act A in the G20. And this is precisely because in Africa, they needed vaccine, but didn't produce vaccine on their soil. They were lagging behind. Your point is right, but I want to treat it and not just being just denouncing it. And this is why we decided to make this platform in Africa. It does make sense. So it's feasible to change the thing, but not by just lecturing people on the other side because you come from the South, because I know very good guys from the North doing exactly the same speech with the opposite arguments, but working together and building bridges and based on facts and science, working together in order to improve the problem we have. This is just what I wanted to add.
This Pact for Prosperity, People and Planet is not premised on North versus South. It is not premised on prejudices that exist and driven by narratives that we all know. That was not the premise upon which we established this platform. And this platform has been driven in all its aspects in trying to find solutions. And let me say this. Today we have common ground by both the people living in the global North and global South on reform of the financial institution. It is no longer a matter of those of us from developing countries. I see many, in fact, everybody who spoke today in this forum spoke about the need to reform the international financial architecture. It is no longer, when we raised it initially, we looked like madmen, but today, everybody agrees that there is something that needs to be done about the international global architecture, and Ajay Banka here already has enumerated to us what steps are being taken to address the concerns that have been put forward by this forum that is jointly between people from different shades of opinion. Secondly, let me say this. The international arena cannot solve this problem alone. We have to be realistic. There are things that must be done in domestic jurisdictions. There are things we must do in our countries. And I will explain. For example, a matter that was ably canvassed by President Lorenzo about health. It is true. There is a relationship between poverty and conflict. There is a relationship between health and development. And as a result, it's become increasingly clear to us that even in the context where global resources, global fund resources, Gavi resources are going down, we must step up domestically mobilized resources to fill the gap. This is what we have done in Kenya, for example, so that we're not just discussing about reform of the international global financial architecture. We are also discussing reform of our own domestic raising interventions so that we have resources that is available at the domestic level. Just allow me just to say this, because it's important to contextualize where we are. Even when global resources were dwindling, we stepped in with domestic raising resources. We changed the infrastructure for raising health insurance from where we had 0 point something percent and the poor were paying 10%. We agreed on a standard 2.75% for everybody to pay. What has happened? We have raised $1 billion, money that we didn't have, and we have raised it domestic, using domestic resources. So some of the interventions can be sorted out by looking at domestic raising interventions that are local in its nature. Let me also say this. We've also leveraged on the private sector to provide help in Kenya. We worked with manufacturers that were buying from, we were buying from them equipment for our hospitals. We decided to change it on the other side. We decided to create an investment out of equipment. Now manufacturers are investing. We have now a leasing program, a fee-for-service program, where manufacturers, where we were buying a CT scan or an MRI for our hospitals, today they bring the MRI to the hospital, they bring the CT scan to the hospital, and we pay for service. For every service we get, we pay for it. We don't have to pay for the equipment anymore. So we have changed. Instead of us investing in buying equipment, manufacturers have seen an investment opportunity for them to put equipment in our hospitals, and it comes out as a win-win. So the private sector and the public sector are collaborating to deliver on public interventions. As a result, we have mobilized close to another $1.5 billion from the private sector to fund our health delivery mechanism. So there is what can be done globally, and we are all in for making sure that there is proper interventions in making sure the international financial architecture have proper representation and voice from our continent, but also we will step up as countries on local solutions, because we cannot wholly depend on external solutions to meet the challenges that face us, whether they are financial or they are public in nature. So this is and this is why the 4P also talks about country-led ownership of priorities and interventions. So I think we are well on course on this, and I'm very clear that we are headed in the right direction, and that is why we have 73 countries who have joined us, because we are not discussing narratives, we are not discussing pointing fingers. This is not about south or north, this is about solutions that work for all countries.